This is episode 12 of the H2H Sales Automation Podcast on creating content that converts.
Let's build a business based on H2H, not B2B, but human-to-human sales and marketing automation. A human approach is the only one that sells.
Hello everyone and welcome to our show. My name is Bart and I invite guests for a short 20 minutes interview to inspire and improve your sales and marketing the human way. Today I'd like to welcome Eloise Leeson-Smith, a linguist, speaker, hosting own next level communication podcast channel. And we're going to speak today with Eloise about content. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Bart. I am delighted to be here. And this is one of my absolute favorite subjects. How do you sell in a human-to-human way? How do you put the people back at the heart of your business? So I can't wait to get started.
Wonderful. I've been working with Eloise for some time, and I have to tell everyone, Eloise is a fantastic insider and is sharing so much insights for us to get the content, but also to get our business better. And now with content, what actually content means for you, for the business, Eloise?
That is such a great question. I think it's a really good place to start because content is one of those things that we throw around as a word. We throw it around all the time. And I remember there was a sort of furore in the sort of like 2010s, 2015, that kind of 5-year stretch where people were like, content marketing is the way forward. And everyone was like, great, what does that mean? And I think the problem was that, I love this line, which is Nora Ephron, who is the internationally renowned film director. She talks about everything is copy. And for me, copy in terms of the words that we use, copywriting, words with deliberation, content is exactly the same thing. Everything is content, probably when it shouldn't be, but that is very much the case, is that any opportunity that we have as a business to engage with our clients can be done via content marketing. And content is really, I think what's helpful is if you change the word content for value. So anything that adds value or creates value or offers an insight or some kind of information is content worthy of being shared. And if you're not sharing content and people aren't sharing your content, it's probably not doing the job. It's not really converting. And I think kind of when you talk about what is content is a medium. It's a way of putting value in front of someone else. And that can be your emails, that can be a video, it can be a podcast like this one. But think about content as a medium. It's a channel, it's a way of delivering something good to someone else. That's the best way that I would think about it.
This is fantastic definition. I took my notes. Everything is copy. You'll love it. What I found within business is that content usually are a last part of the strategy. Really, everyone is thinking about let's put the Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, let's put this social media, whatever message, or even just a video or phone, and they never think about the strategy in terms of like how to actually engage, how to build that. That kind of funnel. Like you need to. To me, content is also the place that you talk about yourself, but also make them talk about you. So how would you see from the perspective of you working with the business, where is the biggest problem when it comes to creating the content?
Oh, brilliant. So love this topic. I think where a lot of businesses go wrong, there are two things that happen. So one is we do things in the wrong order. And the reason that we do things in the wrong order is because of the second issue, which is that we make assumptions. So the first problem is that we don't start with the customer in mind. We start with what we want to achieve. We start with our goals. We start with our objectives. We start with our tactics, our decisions, our assumptions. And we have this innate sort of accidental but bulletproof belief that we know precisely what everybody else wants. And I think that when we have these assumptions, it makes it very easy for us to then say, well, let's make some progress and let's put some roadmaps in place and let's get our things, rolling. I would like everyone to just stop for a second and say, well, hang on, who are we serving? Why are we in business? What is it that we're here to do? And, you can sort of dismiss that if you want to as being slightly excessively positive or optimistic, but it's genuinely the most sustainable long-term business solution. If you're not in the business of helping other people and doing something that genuinely adds value and makes people's lives better, your business is going to be really short-lived. because people aren't going to want to come back to you. They're not going to want to use a product that only partially meets their needs. You're going to get outstripped by a competitor. And that competitor is probably looking at their goals and sort of plans and strategies after they've identified how they can help as many people as possible. And I think that when we think about content in that sense, or we think about, connection in that sense, and really kind of what I do in my business is all about fostering better connections. It's about, how can we delight our customers? And the best thing that you can possibly start with is research. If you're going to counter all of those assumptions that you have about the market, about how your product is received. I mean, there's a reason that product testing teams are all the rage in Silicon Valley, because people want to know if what they're developing and building is actually fit for purpose. And not just fit for purpose, but does it delight people? Is it working? Is it helpful? And when you start with that research perspective, it means that you're not going to fall into all these potential pitfalls that if you started the other way around and just built from assumptions, you're going to fall into, because you've been able to plot the path ahead with concrete facts, concrete data, and better insights.
I mean, what a wonderful explanation about assumptions. And I think the keyword you use, we. I can tell quite a lot of businesses, when you open the web page or send a message, we are best in the market. We provide things, and we assume we make assumption that we talk about something that maybe is not relevant to the customers and where they are in the buyer journey, isn't it?
Oh,
they might be somewhere else. They might even not be ready for any purchase, and we are start talking about ourselves, not about the client.
I mean, it's like going on the worst first date ever, isn't it? When you go on a first date, you hope that the person that you're sitting with is going to be a little bit curious about you. I don't know about you, Bart, but I've been on some truly terrible dates. I'm sure you haven't. I'm sure all your dates have been wonderful. But my dates, I've had some real clangers where he's sat there opposite me at the table and told me just how wonderful he is, and that he has made this partner and he's done this thing and he has this golf number, and I don't know what the golf numbers mean, but he basically like how fabulous and wonderful he is. And I'm sat there thinking, you don't care about me at all. And business is exactly like a relationship. If you're going to make me feel valued and important to you enough to engage in a transaction of some kind, whether I'm giving you my time romantically, or that sounds terrible, let's cut that bit out, whether I'm spending time with you or we're developing a romantic relationship, or whether I'm becoming a loyal retainer customer, it's the same principle. Be interested in who I am and what I need. Because if you don't, I'm going to go out and find someone else or some other company that does. And the issue that I see with almost every single website that I work on when I'm brought in to consult is that the company, and forgive the like slightly childish toilet humor, they have weed all over their copy. They've used the word we so many times that it has automatically told me where your priorities lie. If you were just to change every single sentence so that it's about your customer, so rather than saying we are providers of great human-to-human sales solutions, you say you're looking for someone to support you with human-to-human sales solutions. That's exactly what we deliver. You don't have the right to use the word we until you've proved to your customer why you're worth their time.
Brilliant. I think the homework for our listeners is to review the copy of the homepage. Let's start from the homepage, ladies and gentlemen, and just take off the we word and rewrite this. And I think this is one of the best ever tip that we can give to the people when it comes to content. Keep it simple, stupid. Eloise.
Keep it simple, stupid.
I think this is the one that I would probably say my take for, especially for the sales content, because the subject of discussion is to talk about, how to write the content that converts. So we learned that we need to be more about, customer-centric. Obviously, we talk about the problems that we're solving about them. But is that enough to actually convert any piece of content into the, ready and fresh deal on your pipeline?
That's a brilliant question. So I think it's important to be aware that content doesn't happen in isolation. So it's not a one-off. I mean, I think a lot of people will spend a lot of money developing a white paper or an infographic, and they'll kind of, again, assume, oh, this is going to bring me in so many leads. We're going to convert so many people. This is going to be an absolute sales magnet. There's one thing, and you're looking at it like a silver bullet. And the problem is that your client or your potential customer, they're not looking at you in isolation. Now, sure, one of the first kind of contacts with you might come on the back of them reading your white paper, but you have to think about everything else, the entire holistic picture of your business. one of the best things that I kind of challenge my clients to think about is what would they perceive about their company if they had never met themselves? So what's the first impression that you're providing? And so when we think about content, it's not just valuable to think about it in isolation. You should always create great content. That should be your rule. But it needs to link up with everything else that you're doing. So you have to be consistent. You have to be congruous. And this is one of the biggest challenges, is that, people are looking at you and it takes something like, 6 to 7 touch points for someone to even recognize you after sort of seeing your content or being aware of it, for them to then take action. So it's not a case of saying, well, my content has converted. Let's think about, have you actually embedded your client at the heart of everything that you do from a sales, content and marketing perspective? Because if you haven't, then they're going to get these very disjointed, disparate, kind of broken experience, if that makes sense, where what they're seeing and what they're hearing about is not all joining up together. And we would maybe, and again, using a relationship metaphor, you might call that a red flag. So there might be one great piece of content that's lovely, but then you email the person saying, I really enjoyed your white paper. Could you send me some other resources like that? And you never hear back. If you're not planning that entire buyer's journey, that entire customer journey from beginning to end, and then retention, because really your relationship with customers should never end. What was it? Tony Robbins said that if you do the same thing throughout your relationship as you did at the beginning, there will never be an end. And I think that we often forget about the importance of client retention once we've made that sale. So your content should be converting even after they become a customer. We don't think about that always. And it's really important to consider. So how do you create content that converts? You go straight back to that research that you did. And you think about, what does my client really need? What's valuable for them? Have I prioritized their time? Have I made sure that my content is interesting, accessible, informative, offers an easy call to action if they need more information from us or they want to get in touch about something? Have you, in other words, made it as easy as possible for your customers to do business with you on the back of the content that you shared?
Brilliant. I think, and you said this a couple of times, keep everything within a context, in the broader terms. And what I mean by context is also recognizing that for some, January might be a really busy month, and discussion about some B2B offer, SaaS product, etc. might not be actually really good timing for them to make a decision. And everything comes with the data. And I think that is all about my kind of tip for everyone who's listening us is, in order to create the content, we need to know everything about the client. We need to know the data. We need to collect our own data. That will then give us a really good feedback of what and how to write in terms of messages. AI, because that was the topic, obviously, that we actually, and I'm pretty surprised, we are actually 10 minutes out of this conversation and we never talk about the AI, talk about content. What's your take, Eloise, on AI and creating a content that will convert?
AI is an interesting one because I think it really has its place. I think so. I am known for a lot of the copywriting, an expert copywriting work that I do. And so I'm quite, I hope I'm quite involved in that community. I'd like to think I am. And I've seen a lot of conversations in those circles, on networking events, panel discussions, you name it, about AI being this is the apocalypse for copywriters. AI is going to steal your business and make your life terrible because it's going to flood the internet with crappy vanilla content. No, that's true. That is absolutely true, because there are people out there who don't care about the customer and they don't care about putting in the work to create really great content. And the market will give you what you deserve. I think with AI is a tool, and we seem to forget that. We seem to think of AI as this sort of other entity that's sort of sentient somehow, although it's not. It's really just a very large algorithm. AI is not actually intelligence. It is repetition of data that's been fed into it. And I think where that's valuable is in automating some of the tasks that marketers, that slow marketers down, or slow writers down, or slow people down. Because AI and automation have absolutely got a place. And I think what they do is they free up your time to do the work, the creative, human, personal, approachable, intelligent work that separates you from everybody else. And I think that's where, if you're leveraging AI to create more time to do the work that is irreplaceable, AI is brilliant. That's exactly what it's there for. And that's how we should be using it. So for me, AI is one step in a long process or, a deliberate process when it comes to creating content. So for example, let's say I am building an SEO driven article. And I'm getting a brief from my client about what they'd like me to write about from a sort of, SEO and linguistic perspective. They've done their research about their customers, so they know what their customers are interested in. I will interview that client about the brief, about what they want me to write about, and then I'm going to get AI to tidy that into a script or into a skeleton draft for me. Mm-hmm. On the basis of that, I then go into that skeleton draft and I interrogate whether or not what's been created makes sense. The problem with AI is that people use it as a single step process and they put in their content, they get it back, they have a little read through, it says, it sounds mostly okay, and they ship it. And that's a problem because there's no tone of voice, there's no differentiation from anybody else, because why would there be? You've not put anything into that AI document that's wildly different from another competitor. So you're going to sound like everybody else, which means you're going to be drowned out in a sea of noise. When it comes to being used for efficiency, for driving efficiency and effectiveness, that's when it becomes really valuable because it frees up my time. Then I go back into the SEO article once my client signed off the skeleton draft. I build out the first draft with AI and then I edit, proof and refine until I've got something that sounds like my client because I've delivered a tone of voice document. It's so different to the rest of the crowd because it's nuanced and specific and it's research driven, and it actually adds value to the customer at the end of the day. Plus, it has an easy call to action at the end, and it's designed to be accessible. That's the way to use AI, is to embed it in your marketing processes. But I think there are some great companies out there. Obviously, the great companies out there already do this, where they've delivered and developed a very specific marketing process. This is how we do this. This is how we deliver this. And what's important is they're always iterating on those processes. So if you have I'll do a proposal, first draft, second draft, edits, ship. Great. Just stick AI somewhere in there to give you more time to do the edits and refinements that are really going to make your work stand out from the crowd.
Brilliant take. I love here one particular part is that AI is part of the process of creating content strategy. I think quite a lot of businesses are taking creating content, especially sales content, is like something, okay, I'll just send an email. And they never actually think about the process and how AI can play the role. And what another thought that when you actually spoke about market will give you what you deserve, I really like this one. And my take is you get back what you put in. Mm-hmm. If you put in 5 minutes work and you publish articles and everything else, and you expect that everyone will like you and you will get number one ranked everywhere, and people will basically give you a ready-made like credit cards really for the next transaction, this is probably the wrong approach.
And it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I think in the age of the internet, we live in a world of instant gratification. Mm. And I think in many ways, it's very easy to think that you're being productive when all you're being is busy. Yep. And there's definitely a difference. You absolutely do. It's a golden rule. You get in what you put out. And if you really put your heart into things, I think you get out so much more than you put in, and I think in many ways, actually, what is it? Zig Ziglar says you should go the extra mile because it's never crowded. And I think that is so true. And I think a lot of marketers, and I understand the pressures. I really do. I worked in agency. I've worked for, big public sector organizations. I've worked in startups. I've done a number of different things. I know the pressures very intimately with working in a kind of team-based environment. As a consultant now, I have more autonomy over my time. But I do understand the pressure that marketers are under, and I understand why AI becomes such an attractive trait. Because, again, living in this instant gratification world, we want more content, better content right now. And we seem to have forgotten the cardinal rule that is, if you want something great, you have to work hard at it. Like some of the stuff that you will do will feel easy and it'll come naturally, but it still takes time and it still takes effort. And I think that there are so many marketers out there who have enormous potential, who unfortunately are just swamped in this sea of demands of Slack messages and pings and emails, that actually we forget sometimes because we're burned out, we're tired, that we have got so much potential. There is so much great stuff that we can do that just cannot be replicated by a machine or by an algorithm. It just can't be done. There's no algorithm for creativity. Because by its nature, an algorithm is repetitive. It's like put in one formula, get this out. Creativity is about saying, no, that's weird. Let's take it in a totally different direction. When you look at the way creativity works in our brains from a neurological perspective, if you think about it as light bulbs, so you might light up one light bulb that says, forest. But then by association, the more creative you are, the kind of stranger your associations are going to be. So you think forest, then you might also think, sea of magical creatures, underwater forest, coral reef. That is the way that you sort of spark and engender creativity, is you give your brain room to play. AI can't play. I mean, sure, it can create interesting, cat-flavored pictures through DALL-E or whatever, but it doesn't have the same innate spark that gives us humans our wealth of creativity. It just can't be replicated. And I think we forget that. And it's such a shame, because I think we could all do brilliant things if we were to put our mind to it. I really do.
And my also take is that in everyone who is creating the content, whether it's a sales, marketing, customer service, it needs to have a little bit of fun of doing it, because by the end of the day, content needs to be created on a regular basis. It's not like one-off made. It's constant process and evolving. And if you don't have any fun of doing this, even within your team, then eventually it will become like something like tick box exercise. Okay, it's done, but I don't really like it. So think about for all our listeners, think about what can take actually your content to the level that everyone is enjoying within an organization. It doesn't need to be podcasts. If you enjoy videos, if you enjoy anything that will actually create that environment of creativity within the team, that's my kind of ideal scenario to nurture.
I think, Einstein said, isn't it? Creativity is intelligence having fun. So I think you've nailed it. That's exactly what it is. Creativity is intelligence having fun. And if you're not having fun with your content, why would the person who is on the receiving end of that content enjoy it? I mean, just think about it. I think if you've so I do a lot of videos on LinkedIn. And I have a lot of fun with it. I don't take it too seriously. And in developing the Next Level Communication podcast, that was born out of just try something different. The response was fantastic. And I think that for anybody who is looking to put the fun back into what they're doing, try something totally new. Be okay with being bad at it, but be willing to give it a go. And I think that, if you've got a meeting, stick a bowl of Lego on the table, or have everybody sit down on the floor for a change, or, get some squeezy balls. Whenever I do workshops with clients, I bring in multicolored pens, I bring in Bart, you've experienced this yourself, but I bring in, bouncy balls and fidget spinners and toys and things for people to play with. And then I have sweeties, I have, my fruit pastels, or I have my chocolate eclairs, so that people can kind of keep their brains ticking over. And there's no reason that needs to be reserved for your workshops. That could be every team meeting that you have where you're brainstorming content for the next wave of how you're going to delight your customers. Invite your customers into that process. I think there's a huge wall between marketers and salespeople and our target clients. One of the best ways to delight your customers is to ask them what they think, mainly because people love talking about themselves, but also you will not get a better source of empirical data than from the source itself. So if you're not doing any research and you're not engaging with your customers to get their insights, you're missing such a huge opportunity to deliver more value.
Fantastic idea. Invite your clients to create in content creation process. Well done, Eloise. So we're about to run out of the time. So my final question is your top tips. So this podcast is all about human sales and how we can be better at actually approaching all of this. What's your top tip how to sell like a human?
Give yourself some grace. I think that's the best response I could come up with for that, because you are a human. And I think with the digital age that we're in now, it's very easy to think of ourselves as computers. And that when we go to sleep, it's the equivalent of turning it on and turning it back off again, or the other way around. And I think that we forget that there's a human on the other end of the sale, but that we are also human beings too. And that means that we are the authority on human selling. And so when it comes to sales, don't ignore your gut instinct. Don't ignore your feelings. Don't ignore their feelings. And I think that, as human beings, your worth is not based on how many sales you do. Your worth is based on the quality of the sale that you make. So think about how you can value that other person. How can you make them feel like the most important person in the room? Think about how great it would feel if someone did that for you, and then make it your mission to go out there and leave people feeling so important and so valued. And I think in a very transactional business culture that we live in at the moment, that is the biggest difference and the biggest impact you can make, is to value the other person as much as you possibly can in every single interaction, because it's going to make you feel fantastic too.
Eloise, wonderful. Thank you very much for your time and being at our podcast. Thank you again for sharing fantastic tips And I definitely will get back to this podcast once and again, just to refresh my mind, because we tend to keep forgetting things that we can improve. Thank you, Eloise.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Bart.
Let's build a business based on H2H, not B2B, but human-to-human sales and marketing automation. A human approach is the only one that sells.